So here we are going to revise the unit 3, that is the process of embedded system development. In that we are going to see the development process, waterfall model, requirement engineering, design, implementation, integration and testing, packaging, configuration management, managing embedded system development. So whenever we are talking about the development process, the goal of every designer should be to develop the quality product, and the quality product is reflected always so that it should give a proper output. It should meet the customer requirements and the functional requirements. So this systematic approach is called as a process. So process is a step by step procedure, we can say, and as shown in diagram, the process is, it takes the raw material as input and produces the finished product. For example, if a car is manufactured, the raw material is nothing but the various parts such as the chassis, engine, etc., and the finished product is car. So the process is step by step procedure to assemble the various parts and then test the assembled car to check whether it meets all the requirements. The same funda is applicable in the development of embedded system. The raw material is replaced by the problem definition. The finished product is as it is. The process will be hardware development and software development. So as shown in figure, for embedded system development, the development process defines the step-by-step procedure to convert the vague problem definition into a working product. In embedded systems, there are two components, hardware and software. So for that, it is necessary to develop the hardware as well as the software. So generally, the waterfall model is used for the development. In commercial embedded system projects that do not involve very high-end research, the waterfall model is used. In waterfall model, the development process is divided into the 5 stages. That is the requirement engineering, design, which involves the hardware software partitioning, hardware implementation and software implementation, hardware software integration and testing, operation and maintenance. Same way, hardware prototype development and simulation engineering. So these are the phases that comes under the waterfall model. So now starting with the first, that is the requirement engineering. As its name implies, requirement engineering is mainly responsible for collecting all types of requirements. The embedded system development projects can be divided into two categories, that is the product development, which is based on marketing department's inputs, and the turnkey project execution, that is based on requirement given by the client. So in case of product development, which is based on the marketing department's inputs, you may have to take the development of new product. So we have to study the features of existing products which are in competition. We have to do the market survey, and then we can have the requirements. Whereas in the turnkey projects, we need to develop embedded system based on requirements given by the client, so that are very specific. So for both type of projects, you need to write the detailed requirements of proposed embedded system. This may take a few days or few weeks depending on the complexity of the project. To start with, the problem definition will be very vague, such as develop a handheld data terminal or develop the process. But we need to convert this problem definition into detailed requirement document, and this process is called as requirement engineering process. So as shown in the figure, the requirement engineering process is divided into 3 phases: requirement analysis, requirement specification, and requirement validation. So the requirement analysis phase, you need to have a series of discussions with the client to obtain the requirements such as input, what can be the output, the processing to be done, the input supply voltage, communication interfaces, size, operating environment, and the standards to be followed. All that comes under the requirement analysis. Once these are obtained, they need to be documented, and the document is called as requirement specification. That is the system requirement specification that has to be prepared. So each and every specification needs to be documented. This document needs to be divided into two parts. One part covering all functional requirements and the another contains non-functional requirements. The non-functional requirements are reliability, delivery time, implementation requirements, standards, safety requirements, security, like that. And then the validation is done, that is the requirement validation is done, and then we are getting the main output, that is the validated SRS, that is nothing but the validated system requirement specification document. So the requirement analysis phase, in that we are taking the requirements from the client, that is input, output, processing to be done, input, supply voltage, communication interfaces, standards to be followed. Then as I said, they we are dividing them into two parts, functional and non-functional requirements. And in requirement validation phase, this is to ensure that the requirement specification document captures all the requirements of the user, and also to ensure that the required embedded system can be designed and developed. Then comes the next phase, that is the design. The design goals, the validated system specification document is converted into design. So for that we have to follow the design phase. In this phase, the engineers need to carry out the paper design of both hardware and software. So to start with, we have to separate out the functionalities of hardware and software. This is somehow a complex activity, because it is difficult to decide whether the particular functionality has to be implemented in hardware or the software. So the design goals are to meet all the functional and performance requirements. Second one is to reduce the size and cost of the system, to reduce the power consumption, to reduce the development time and effort, to reduce the maintenance effort and time, to increase the reliability. These are main important design goals that are very necessary to consider. Talking about design trade-offs, so design engineers have many options for selection of processor, and for that these design goals that has to be considered. Now when carrying out a design, many times we are having a dilemma, like which processor to be used, microcontroller or microprocessor, FPGA is required or not, is it necessary to port the embedded system. So all that comes under the design trade-offs. And the design process is divided into two parts, that is the co-design, that is hardware design, and the software design. So the hardware design and the software design, that is nothing but partitioning of co-design. Sometimes it is difficult to design whether the functionality is to be implemented in hardware or software. Suppose we can take the example of CRC algorithm, that is the cyclic redundancy check calculation algorithm. Which is a better choice, hardware or software? CRC calculation involves taking a bit stream like 1000 bits and calculation of 16 bits or 32 bits based on algorithm. So the hardware implementation means we have to use the additional IC, so the more space will be required, power consumption will be there. And on the other hand, software implementation results in flexibility in changing the algorithms. So that we have to see, and for that we have to consider the issues like speed of execution, flexibility, size, power consumption, memory, and cost. So Intel's 80386 is an integer only processor, and the computers built on this processor initially used to do the floating point operations through the software. Generally the floating point calculations are very slow, we can say. Using PLD, then FPGA systems on chip solutions, we can build a reconfigurable hardware. That is a very good thing also. In the hardware design now, after the hardware software partitioning is done, the hardware design and software design needs to be carried out. Now the hardware design involves the selection of processor, calculation of memory requirements, types of memory, that is RAM, EPROM, flash memory, identification of input devices, identification of output devices like LED or LCD, identification of test points for debugging the hardware, then identification of supply voltages. So initially we have to start with the block diagram, and then we have to convert it into the circuitry with the necessary interconnections. Once the various modules are identified, the circuit has to be designed and the PCB has to be obtained, that is the printed circuit board has to be obtained. The hardware design not done in isolation. Interaction with software engineers are very much necessary and required. Now when we are talking about the hardware design, the selection of processor is very necessary, that is either microprocessor or microcontroller or the DSP. If your application involves the signal processing like audio video applications, we have to use DSP. If we want better performance without external circuitry, microcontroller is best. If we want the more performance and we can afford the number of external components, we can go with the microprocessor. Now, if microcontroller is not sufficient for the application, the selection of processor is based on the following criteria. That is, what are the performance requirements, means what speed you are expecting, cost of the processor, development tools, special requirements, support for RTOS, technical support from vendor, availability of people with the expertise, that is also very necessary. And when we are talking about the software design, it involves the working out details of processing to be done, decomposition of the processing, calculation of processing time, deciding the use of embedded operating system, then need for support of communication protocol stack, study the need for embedding the server software, upgradation of software, everything. And when we are dealing with the selection of operating system, we have to keep in mind the criteria, that is optimized kernel for the chosen processor, support for the languages, support for the POSIX functions calls, footprint, software components, source code, and the licensing fee. After design, the next important part comes, that is the implementation. So in the implementation part, the hardware implementation or software implementation both goes in parallel. The hardware implementation involves developing the circuit schematics, obtaining the PCB, procuring the components, assembling the components and testing the individual modules, testing the complete hardware. So when the hardware engineers has done the whole process, it is rigorously needed to check the quality, to check the or test all the things, all the components. Whereas in the software implementation, it involves converting the design into code. Implementation of software is generally done on the host system, and then the executable code is transferred to the target system. When many engineers work on the project, the software is divided into different modules, and each and every module is tested separately, and after integration it is tested at the complete level. Then integration and testing. Integration is nothing but combining and all the modules. Testing is the most difficult task, that is testing is the process to prove that your system is working properly. For that we are having the various testing: black box, white box, performance, gorilla, field trial, acceptance, and the regression testing. Black box testing, the functionality of the product is tested over here. In white box testing, the implementation details are considered while testing the system. We will give the input and then line by line the code is checked. In performance testing, it is checked whether the system is meeting the time constraint as per requirement. In gorilla testing, suppose the embedded system is given to gorilla, he will press the keys randomly and we should get the proper output. The field trial system developed in that whatever system we have developed, that is tested not only in the laboratory but in the actual field conditions. Acceptance testing, finally when you are satisfied that the system is working as per the requirements of the clients, we can offer it to the client. The client will conduct the testing using the black box approach. If all the things are satisfactory, then they will be giving us NOC, and that is acceptance testing. Regression testing, after testing the system for a considerable amount of time, you find suddenly a bug. Now you have to modify the software to remove the bug. That comes under the regression testing. So after that also few things are there, that is testing on the host system, testing on the target system. Testing on the host system is done to validate the software, and testing on the target system, we are checking the code is properly running at the client level or not. Then the functional requirements, performance requirements, and environmental requirements are considered when we are testing on the target system. In simulation engineering is an important part activity in the embedded system development. Result of simulation studies provides the necessary inputs to the design as well as the testing stages. Environmental testing, many embedded systems has to work in hazardous environment. So like in the various temperatures like 40 degree or 70 degree, so for that the environmental testing is necessary. So packaging is done after testing. After the complete system is tested and ensured that the hardware and software together are meeting all the requirements, it is packaged in the desired cabinet, which should be attractive. That comes under the packaging. Then the configuration management. During the course of development of embedded system, number of documents are needed that are called as the work products. These work products are SRS, that is system requirement specification, project plan, hardware design document, software design document, circuit diagram, source code, acceptance test procedure, test plan, and user manuals. Now whenever we are starting with the system requirement, specification document will be prepared. Now suppose if any change is there, so we cannot directly do the changes, but if any change is requested, first the analysis is done that what can be the impact of this particular change on our budget, time, and the functionalities. Then it is observed by the manager and the team. Then if it is needed that the whatever proposed change is there, so the change request has to be sent to the project manager by in the specific format. After analysis is done by the project manager and team, it will check all the requirements. If the change is acceptable, then ECN is generated, that is release of ECN, engineering change note, has to be prepared, and the corresponding work product has to be modified. The accepted change has to be communicated to all the employees which are concerned. In many projects, the number of ECNs will be in hundreds, so the project manager has to keep the track for that. Now after that the implementation is done, the testing is done, change release is done, and the work product which is changed, that is available. So that is the configuration management. In the managing embedded system development project, that contains the project proposal preparation, where the detailed project proposal is prepared, containing all the risks, all the requirements, all the people and required skills. In the project planning, the project manager has to prepare the project plan document which clearly indicates the various activities along with the time frames. Then providing the development infrastructure. Many embedded systems are having a lack of necessary infrastructure, so it is necessary to have that development tools. Then the co-design and co-verification. During the design stage, it is difficult to partition hardware and software functionality. Similarly, at the time of testing, the project manager has to work out the detailed process for separate testing of hardware and software. Risk management. Many embedded system development projects have high element of risk, so the major risk items are the person living in middle. So the project manager has to periodically review the project for the possible risk factors and for the corrective actions. Quality management. So the quality is ensured at each and every phase, so it is necessary to ensure the quality though number of changes are there. So that is all about the managing embedded system development process. So this was all about the revision of unit 3. Now in the next section we will see the revision of unit 4. Thank you.